Hi, I'm Amy Nielson. I'm a clinical mental health counselor, and I am here with your mental health nugget for this month. And today we are going to be talking about the kind of the healing power of making connections. Last time when we visited, we were talking about boundaries, and we talked about the boundary house, and I did that to try to give everybody an opportunity to observe within themselves and in their life experience, kind of where they have blocks and things to making connections. Because when our boundaries are not quite aligned, we tend to withdraw or hold back from being able to make the deeper connections that we want to make. And another thing that can sometimes hold back or block us from making the deeper connections we want to make is various kinds of trauma or traumatic experience. And so I wanted to take today to maybe dig in just a little bit deeper even, but then draw in the whole connection between making connection with our ancestors, genealogy and the stories and things, and deepen that to how it can actually help us bring healing into our lives now, which then, of course, is as if we're bringing healing into our lives now, we're going to be able to more easily reach out and make healthy relationship connections moving forward in our life, which is also things that we need to have. So if everybody has an opportunity to take some time either during this discussion or shortly after, hopefully within the next couple of days, I want to challenge you to start looking at more pictures and digging in more stories of your ancestors. And when I say ancestors, it doesn't have to be people, in like the 17 and 1800s, even 1900s. Start by talking to your parents, talking to your grandparents, learning their stories or reading their stories, and connecting with even just the first couple generations back. Of course, on Family Search, there's some really cool resources under the memories section of that you can find stories and pictures if you've had family post those there. But my reason for talking to you about this and asking you to go and make those connections there, like reading them, listening to them, is in our experience, our emotions come, like their energies and different sensations that come into our body when we have exposure to something, right? We can be watching a movie, a romantic comedy, and we can feel a sensation of excitement or even love that somebody might be feeling up on the screen that we're watching. We could, in our real life, we might be with a friend or witness a situation where somebody is hurt and crying. And if you take a moment, you might notice that you feel a little of that person's pain or discomfort or sadness. And we might even cry with them. All right, that comes from this functioning within us attached to our mirror neurons. Okay, we have these mirror neurons that see emotion happening with other people, and then our body naturally mirrors that. Okay, and it's one of these connection things that we have, and it's really powerful. If you want to learn more about that, we can talk more about that on another mental health nugget. It's because it's a super cool concept of how that all works. But through those mirror neurons, we're making those emotional connections with everything that's going on around us. And so bringing up on purpose, exposing ourselves to the stories of our family members that have come before us can help us engage their emotional experience, which then can help us validate our own emotional experience. So I want to share with you just really quick a quick story of my own. I was looking through some various different memories and stories, and one of my ancestors, it wasn't very many generations back, my grandmother on my father's side immigrated here from Denmark. And so we only have a couple generations on that specific line that have been here in America. And in her story, somewhere back in that storyline, and whether it's hers or my grandpa's now. I can't remember whose it was. Anyways, not important. But somewhere back in those lines, one of the ancestors, a great grandmother, who was immigrating here when she, like all of her kids left ahead of her. It was just her and her husband left. They'd all left at various different times and various different methods to come across to here. And then when her and her husband were finally able to gather their things and get ready to come over, and they were going to come and join their family here in Utah. But it was only like a day or two into their travels, and her husband gets sick and dies. And I just wonder for myself if I would have just been like, done. Okay, I'm just going to go back to what I know is home and what I know is comfortable. I'm not doing this. But she persevered on. She dug in and continued on the trek and made it here. And as I was reading that story, my heart, I could feel the energy of that perseverance. And I happened to be reading that story through this, it was only a few months ago. It was right in the deeper part of the winter. And that's some of the hardest months for me. And I could feel her perseverance. And by allowing myself to observe that I felt that, and then even take a couple breaths in it and go, wow, like, ooh, I can really feel her strength. Right there in that moment, I am connected to her. And she is literally feeding me energy that's going to help me then move forward in the challenges that I face in my daily life. So we're going to put a couple pictures up here. And I want to give each of you an opportunity to take a look at one of these, take a look at a picture. I'm going to give them a chance to get it up. Take a look at this picture real quick. Look at his eyes, look at his face, look at his posture, look at what he's wearing. And take a moment and feel within your own body for a minute what energy you get from looking at this picture of this person here. Take a moment and notice that. Take a couple breaths. Notice what energy is there. And then give yourself permission to draw from that energy within your own self. Maybe it's something that you've needed. You know, if you look at it and you see some courage, that's something I see in that. I see some courage here with this picture, and I can draw some of that energy of that courage and allow it to help me move forward in my day, taking that courage with me to face a challenge that I might be facing, or even just getting through the rest of the day. Let's take another picture and let's look at one more before we break out into questions. Okay, so here we have 4 different people, and so pictures with many people, I think, are really fun because you can look at how they're kind of interacting even with each other. If you notice like their body language towards each other, whether they're comfortable or uncomfortable in the picture. It's hard to find older pictures where they actually look relaxed and pleasant because, you know, they have lots of times they have that straight, stern face. But these people look very pleasant and comfortable to me. But you take a moment, look at their eyes, look at their body language, and notice how it affects your body when you're engaging literal communication with this picture, and see what you find for yourself. If there's any emotions that you experience that feel positive or uplifting or encouraging in any way, breathe in that emotional energy. It literally can lift us up, fill us up, and then we can utilize that energy through the day. So when we've been facing or have faced traumatic experience in the past, drawing in, in therapy, we use this term called resourcing, okay? This exercise that I've been walking you through is called resourcing, where you're drawing the energy from people who have gone before us, drawing that energy to help lift us and help us move forward. I am confident that our ancestors did the same, and I'm confident that they would want us to utilize them to also help us move forward. And when we make those connections, that can literally open our heart to building trust for ourselves, building trust for others, which is then going to help us build more trust in making those deeper, healthy connections with people that are currently around us. So I hope you'll give this a try. Remember that your challenge today is to find pictures of your ancestors. It doesn't even have to be your ancestors. If you don't have a lot, just go start looking through pictures of people that have gone before you and look at those different energies. Maybe there's something specific you do need. Maybe you're needing a sense of forgiveness or a sense of peace in your heart. Go see if you can look and identify pictures that represent to you, like that you can feel that energy of peace coming from that picture. Or stories, read their stories. And if you find stories that fit what you're looking for, or go hunt for the ones that you're needing in your life. And as you're experiencing that with them, literally breathing in that energy, letting that energy flow through your body, and then you can use that to face what you're facing that day. So I want to open this up to questions and exploration. Anything that you guys have in your mind. Welcome back, ladies.
Hello.
Hey.
Let's get some questions in here. I thought that was really cool because I don't know, like you hear some people say, write your journal for your future posterity, but I don't think I think about like people drawing from my pictures or things like that, which is kind of cool now that since we're such a huge picture society, we got a lot more of those going on for our journaling instead of written.
For sure. And I did use the example of pictures because obviously like that's easy. Okay. Like being able to see it. And in our generation, we're so visual, like everything is in front of us, right in our face. And so pictures help. But our imaginations are so intensely powerful. And so even just reading the story, if they're not where you can listen to them, I highly recommend read one of your ancestors' story in your own voice, record it. Mm-hmm. Close your eyes and listen to it and let yourself play the imagery video in your mind as you're going through that. And again, you'll get that experience of that energy flowing through you. And I feel like it's way more powerful even than anything we can see on a big screen in front of us, because we're really deepening that connection into our body.
I keep thinking of a story. I don't even know why. I don't know, but I keep thinking of a story that I read, and it's not even this super powerful story, but I remember it having an impact and it sticks with me, just of an ancestor who lived up a canyon back before we had cars, and she had to hike or ride a horse. And when there was trauma in her life, it was very stressful because of the, and that for some reason, even though it's not this super big, powerful, it comes up in my mind often. And so as you were talking, that was one of the stories that kept coming to me, is that I think I draw on it and I don't even realize I am. You know what I'm saying? Like even you sharing those pictures, it's like, they're not my ancestors, but it invokes emotion. And I thought that was interesting because I had never considered it. You're not aware of so many of the feelings you feel. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly it, isn't it? So because we do so much of this in this work, in learning about our families, or even talking and hearing about other people's families, we're not totally aware of how it fully affects us. And this is my hope, is to help increase all of your awareness that this actually has a huge effect on our bodies. It's a real thing. And if you take just a moment, slow down and take that breath. I say breath all the time, but I do it because it gets us to slow down just a little bit. But take a moment and observe. There is so much awesomeness, even in the really hard stories. Like I have an ancestor that did some pretty crazy stuff. And yet also reading about it, he was kind of a rebel, and that lights me up. Like when I need a little bit of extra in my day, I'm like, okay, I need to draw from him because I need some of that little rebellious oomph in there.
Right.
And I feel like maybe he knows better now and can send me oomph to do the good things that I want to do.
I love that. Well, and it's just, I love what you're tapping into, because when I think about, ever since we started this project, the number of articles that have been sent to me of people sharing their experience of drawing on that strength. And it's so many of us don't know how to identify it. So I love that you're kind of clearing that up for us and helping us understand why, because it is powerful. And that's the whole point, right? Like, that's the whole point. That's why we do this.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you go back through some of the previous videos that we've done, and everything, I talk a lot about body chemistry. And I didn't necessarily emphasize it here on the one today, but I'm going to really fast, is to remind everybody that when they feel those sensations in their body, they're literally changing the chemistry of their body. So if they're on purpose going and seeking those emotional experiences that maybe they feel they need. Let's say we're having a morning where, like, and we all have them, right? I just don't want to get out of bed. I don't have it in me. It's just another humdrum day. This is so hard. But then we on purpose, like, okay, I need some get up and go today. I need some get up and go. Where can I go for that? Have your stories out there, like have your list of who of my ancestors had get up and go, and turn on the story. Go read that story and say, honey, I need some get up and go for me today. Help me. And you can hear that and go, okay, if she got up and went, I can get up and go. I can feel her energy kicking that out of bed.
Do you know what I love about that? When I did the 21-day, because I've done it several times, and that was kind of what inspired the project. At least one of the times, I don't remember what time it was, but one of the times I remember so often I would do it before I got out of bed, because I'd wake up and I'd be like, ugh. And I would just open up my family search app and just read a story, because that counted, right? And it was easy. It's just like not moving. But now that I think about it, I'm like, yeah, that usually gave me the energy. It was like kind of that was the way I got up during that whole 21 days, and it was awesome, and I loved it. So now I'm going, oh, there's a reason. It wasn't just
there's like a legit thing. It gets the body chemistry going. So we're like, okay, all right, it's there. I just needed that little bit of kick.
And something that I'm loving that you're saying is that you keep mentioning intentional, on purpose. And it's like, and that's all that we've been trying to prove with the connecting, is that like most people are doing it all the time, every day, but you have to stop and just even take that second to acknowledge that you're going to do it with either on purpose, or you're intentionally recognizing the emotions that whatever caused.
Yeah.
And
yeah. And if we put even just that teeny bit of intention in there, we'll start making our list. We can make our list of, oh, this is where I go for this inspiration. This is where I go for this inspiration. This is where I get this energy. Whether you make an actual physical list or in your head, you start noticing this is what helps me with these things. Though I highly recommend make your actual list, because sometimes those really bad days that we don't have the ability to think about what we want because we're just really struggling. So having an actual physical list, like I love how you talked about on your phone, that you did at least have enough energy to grab your phone and look and start reading. Like most of us can get that far, right? Because we're going to read stories of our ancestors, or we're going to check out on Netflix. Like maybe we could just read the story of our ancestor instead of checking out on Netflix.
Right. Or do it first and then still give yourself.
And then do Netflix.
Right. You can give yourself permission. You're like, I will get to watch Netflix if I read one story. But you might not even make it to, or have a need to check out so much when we went ahead and connected instead and started those connection chemicals flowing in our body. Like we've talked about before, those connection chemicals are natural antidepressants. Right. So if we're needing that little bit of kick or boost in our day, and we on purpose go, like we've already had our list, maybe we have some things flagged in our family search, or we have certain stories downloaded or whatever, list on your phone, and you grab it and look at those instead. Take a moment, look at those, and notice what that does to you for that day.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about what you're saying is that it applies to anyone. In the Power of Connection series that we did, we talked a lot about how loneliness is like a pandemic, and and has legit health effects. And so to me, this is a solution for anyone. Even if you're an alone, widowed or single person, you can still use this as a source. Like I can wake up and go make my kids hug me, but I'm in a different walk of life, And so it's great that there's a tool for anyone, no matter what. You can do this. You can do this kind of connection and get those chemicals, right?
That's exactly it. Yes.
So we have a few questions. So what are your thoughts about how healing on our own present can also facilitate healing of our ancestors' posterity?
Okay, so what are my thoughts on how healing our own present? So if
the situation,
so healing our own current trauma and issues, and so many of our traumas are generational, without even realizing it. That like behaviors and different things passed down through generations, of course. So this actually has a huge amount of power in opening the door for healing all through our ancestors as well as forward to our posterity. Now, of course, there is this like really, really cool study, if you guys ever want to like look it up, of that they did on Holocaust survivors. Okay, so those who had survived the Holocaust, they did like a genetic study on their genes, and there was a marker that they found on those survivors versus people who had not gone through that kind of trauma. They found the same marker on people who, I can't remember what country it was, but they had survived.
Ireland, potato famine, is that the one?
It might be. Yeah,
okay.
Through the famine, right? And then the next generation also had that marker. But those who went through treatment and worked through healing that trauma, the next generation did not have the marker. They were able to, it literally shifted the genetic.
So cool.
That is way
totally
cool.
amazing. It's totally amazing to me. But I feel like, and of course, some of this comes from my beliefs of feeling that my ancestors are all around me and that I can have connection to them. I feel that when we take these steps through the healing process, we're also opening more doors for them. We can draw from their courage, but we're also like, connection is never one direction. It's never one direction. Okay, those mirror neurons are going to work both ways. And I believe that is with those who aren't with us at the same time. And so we're going to offer courage to them just like they offer courage to us. I think it's awesome that we can observe our own individual power to change family patterns and know that we can move forward. And I do not doubt, and I can tell you, I'll share this with you. As a therapist who does trauma work with people, I know, and I have seen many times in my office when I'm watching people, I know that their ancestors come in and help them. Like you can feel it. It is tangible when they're in here with us and they are helping them through that process. And they're like cheerleading. They're like, you can do this, because it is not just for us. It is for an entire generations back and forward beings.
There's that picture with the individual sitting there and their angels behind them, like I always think of that as an ancestor picture. Like
absolutely.
When I see that one, it is like
absolutely. Sometimes I know they are carrying my person through because you can feel it. You can feel it. Sometimes I know they're carrying me through because sometimes words come out of my mouth that I have no idea where they came from.
Right. No, I can relate to that. And just even like sitting when I am actually digging and like researching my ancestors, it often feels like they're just like right there. It just feels like, oh, I can feel their presence because I'm learning from them and I'm learning about them. And it's like they're there. I'm learning about them with them. There is how it feels. Like it feels like getting to know someone in person, except for you're missing the conversation part, but it is very present. I totally agree. And I loved this that Christine said, like, I love the word generational healing. Like that's perfect. I love.
Absolutely is. Absolutely is. Thank you.
So we have another question. It says, what about using genealogy just to cope when things get hard?
Ooh, I love that. Good question.
It's just draining.
I think if that's all you've got, then that's what we do. Absolutely. I think we absolutely can. And I encourage you to use genealogy to cope with when things get hard. And that is where I'm suggesting 383 calories. Purpose list. Make an on-purpose list of what does help you cope. Certain relationships there that you might have with your ancestors, or certain stories or things that you draw that positive energy from, and have them ready. Even print them off and have them sitting somewhere accessible in your home to help you with that. If it's because your life is super busy and super draining, read those stories off. Record them, have them on your phone so you can flip them up in your ear on an earbud while you're driving, playing them in your car and things. Find creative ways to infuse yourself with that. Because it is really an infusion. It's an infusion of positive energy. I also want to recommend, if your life is feeling really busy and just super draining, then do this more. So then your life doesn't feel so draining. Have it be filling. And when you have energy, we become more productive and more effective.
What I love, is the audio okay? Sorry, I messed with it. Okay. Michael, one of our participants, did a little why he does family history, and he had just started it and just kind of felt inspired. He's a medical student, super busy. And his kind of testimonial was, it made my life better. Even as busy as I am in med school, when I just took the time to do a little bit of family history every day. I wish I could remember his exact wording. Michelle might remember, but it's on our Power of Connection series. You can go watch it, but it was powerful. And I love it because I've experienced that same thing, but it's so hard to explain to people why it would give you more energy, more power, more time even. it's hard to put your finger on it, but it does. It provides more.
But that's also why we started the experiment, to help people do it easily without having to think about it. So if you're lacking creativity, come try one of the plants.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can totally attest to it. If you take that time, I talk to people about this all the time with like the different steps and tools and things we teach them, like meditation, breathing exercises and things. Inevitably, the first thing people respond back to is, I don't know that I don't have time. I'm so busy. And I can validate that. I know what that is. I feel so busy. But I can absolutely attest to you that if you take the time, 5 minutes, seriously, even just 5 minutes, because you're giving your brain and your body what it needs to function more effectively, we become more productive and effective in our life. We make different choices. We have the power to say no more because we have the emotional energy to put up with the tension that comes from saying no when we need to say no. Right. You know, just are in general more effective beings. And so we do feel overall less drained. If you're drained in your life, then fill yourself up.
And I had a thought come to me today too, that was like, a lot of us are just busy to avoid what we're trying to avoid. We give ourselves the time, the few minutes that it takes, we'd actually open up more, like we're talking about it, we'll open up more time because we don't feel that need to keep feeling busy.
Right. I love that you brought that up, because that's totally one of those negative coping skills, is we make ourselves over busy. So like if you go back to the boundaries discussion we had at the last one, we have to set up boundaries for our own selves as well. And what is most effective.
Yes. Before you ask this question, let me just answer the questions of, yes, this is being archived. It will be on Facebook and YouTube. And the other one was, I can't remember. All of Amy's are on the YouTube and Facebook. I just wanted to answer that because they were thinking about it.
So this is about teens, and this says, my teens have diagnosed anxiety, and I've tried to encourage them to get more involved in family history to help with their anxiety, but it's hard to get them excited about it. Any suggestions?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, it is always hard to get our kiddos involved in this stuff, right? But what I have found has worked in my home, and not that it's perfect. Okay. I do have a couple teenagers, but if I have printed out the stories, if I made stories more easily accessible, then, you know, taking little times here and there where either I'm talking about them at the dinner table, I'm saying, hey, did you know you had, you know, a grandpa or a great grandma that was into this kind of thing, and incorporated it into my daily discussion, they became more interested. Creating times where we read together the stories as a family, but I had to make them more tangible and come out of kind of the online format, like just having them just out and exposed. Then they were more likely to pick it up and go, what is this, or what's this about? Or like I said, then it would also keep my mind more on it, that I would bring it up in daily discussion. And I had to start there to build an interest. When, you know, as I've asked, get on Family Search, and we got everybody a login and stuff like that, they'll do it for like a minute. And then they're like, whatever, like this doesn't entertain me. But when I was able to establish some realness of the people, have their picture out, share a story about it. I have one great grandpa. He was a real scrapper. I mean, he really was. He literally like got into fights all the time.
Oh dear.
He was a boxer, and there was a reason why he was. Anyway. But when I shared that with my sons as they got into their teenage years, I'm like, do you know he had a grandpa that would have like beat him up? And they started asking a little bit more questions about that grandpa. He was a really fun guy, and he lived until his late 90s, or I think it was mid 90s, like 96, I think is. And no wonder, because he probably like, God, why over there yet?
I'm not ready.
Not ready. So,
and Lynette, go ahead. Oops, me and Michelle both. And Lynette, I would add to that, we have the Gen Z plan and the teen plan, and there's a ton of ideas for, like, we built those literally for the younger generation, and just fun and unique ways. So you don't necessarily need to put them on the 21-day plan, but you could go, you know, explore those and try to get some ideas. The other idea is, what was I thinking? the discovery experience is on Family Search. You can get there, familysearch.org/discovery. And it's more interactive. And sometimes that gets those generations that are otherwise maybe not interested in a genealogy chart, digging into some of that a little bit. And sometimes they get excited and keep going. So those are a couple other suggestions.
Christine suggested that she sends pics and just stories via text. I mean, I know with my son, I can get way better conversations from him via text than I do in person.
Great idea.
Fine. And then in detail, I'll be like, I'll get the whole story on the text.
That's funny.
So
that's a great idea. Like giving to because that's exposure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Bringing exposure to the stories. One thing I wanted to bring up really quick as you were talking, I didn't think about, she on her question said that her kids had anxiety.
Oh yeah.
Read back through your family stories. These are not anxiety is really common. And so I bet if you dug into your stories, you're going to find ancestors that may have also had anxiety. See if you can just look at maybe their different behaviors and things that might indicate that they had anxiety as well. And see if you can share those stories with your kiddos to say, look, you're not alone in this. You've had family that has this. And these are things that they did. You might be able to find that in your stories.
And I just thinking about that, that gives some sort of peace to know that hey, they made it past their teen years and look what they accomplished, X, Y, and Z.
That's exactly it. That would be the hope, is if you can find it, you're going to be able to see, look, they worked through their life. They figured it out.
And it kind of feels like you're taking the blinders off of just narrowing in on your whatever's going on right this moment, instead of saying, oh, there's a bigger picture. There's more out there.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, and I feel like there's this great conversation going on YouTube right now between some of the listeners. And so I'm going to say to them, if you have some cool resources that you think we should share, put them in our comments and we'll add them to our evidence page on the website so that people can come and read some of these things that you're doing. Maybe we can make a whole section about that because we'd love to share. And someone asked if you'd be willing to share the study results or the study that you read.
Yes,
Amy, do you know where it is?
I will have to look it up. Yes.
We'll put that on the evidence.
We had a whole YouTube video on it somewhere out there that had the article, and then it had a whole video laid out.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll put it on the YouTube page. The evidence page.
We are out of time. We got to go. But if anybody has any further questions, add them on. We'll catch them later. Anything that you would like for future topics. Amy loves inspiration. So add that in the comments. And thank you so much for joining us.
And if you've missed our previous ones, go back and watch them. They're on our webpage as well as on our YouTube and our Facebook channel. So be sure to watch them. Amy has incredible nuggets.
Okay. Any last
I also love if you are posting, if you're posting stuff, ideas and things, please know I go there because I'm going to refer clients there. Okay. I'm going to tell my people look at all these people that are talking all about these cool things, and they go there and they pull from that. And so thank you for everybody who's posting ideas and thoughts on these topics, because
thank you
more than me and
and thank you, Amy. Thank you. You are so inspirational. We appreciate that you're willing to come and talk to us about these things. This is a great resource.
Second Wednesdays. So everyone come back second Wednesdays, live Q&A, 5-minute mental health nuggets are here. So,
All right.
Okay.